there was a deliberate attempt to foment hatred and anger in this country to not only lead us toward a civil war, but we're headed for a world war. And I'm adamant on both of those. And what you saw happen in Charlottesville is nothing that's coming down. Wait till they have that rally in Florida, because that one's coming up next. Well, there's some others coming up, but that one in Florida is going to be the major one compared to the one in Charlottesville. So, but I was listening to another radio station here in L.A., and somebody who's carrying on D-Don's show on the station said, well, you know, the Black Surface Collectors are having a Pan-African Day. I'm like, well, hell with that. I dropped everything I had planned for yesterday, and I fought that traffic, and I went out to Santa Monica. And, Mr. Nelson, I met folks who came to that workshop who had never been to the beach before in their lives. And they were so happy that somebody was putting on a clinic to help them allay their concerns and fears of the water. And at this Black Surface Collective, we're also combined with the Surf Bus Foundation. It's not all black instructors, not all male instructors. Because down there, and one of the things I said, because there's lots of people, they saw me on the beach, so I don't know why they thought I ran it. I didn't run it. I just came down to show some love and take photographs like I try to do when they're having this event. And if they need me, sometimes they'll ask me to be an instructor. But most of the times, I just come down and photograph. So other people on the beach came up and asked me questions and information. And I said, you know, one of the great things about this, here I'm out here with all these folks of different ages. They're out there having a good time in the water. And we don't give a damn about Donald Trump, those racist bastards back in Charlottesville, and all this crap that people are trying to foment and hate. And Mr. Listen, I'll tell you, I get interviewed all the time at major surf contests now, because I'm always the only black there. I was so happy this year that Michael February and Carlos Munoz, of course, they put them both in the quarterfinals against each other, but they were both in the U.S. Open, so people get to see some color faces. And when I'm up on the Huntington Beach Pier, thanks to you, people aren't up there to watch the surf contest. They come up there on the pier because they want to hear what I'm saying politically, and they already knew I was going to be on your show last week. So you think white folks ain't listening to this show right now, you're crazy. Because I'm going to always tell you, Mr. Nelson, you got more white listeners than you will ever have black. They're just not going to call in. But they're listening because they see me all the time now and tell me, oh, I got your show, I heard the podcast, and I don't even know these folks. Seriously. So what I'm saying to you today, and I appreciated the brother coming out early because one of the things he said, I've been telling you folks for a long time. Get that damn bug out bag. Prepare yourself physically and mentally as if you were preparing for an earthquake, a hurricane, a flood, natural disaster. Because we're headed for a civil war. And you need to stop turning in your damn guns. What did the brother say? They went down to Texas and they stopped the Klan march because they were armed. Now, this rally they had in Charlottesville, I saw a whole lot of white folks, body armor, carrying rifles slinged over their shoulders. I saw black folks and well-meaning liberal whites getting their ass beat. And I didn't see them with no firearms and body armor. And the cops just stood by and let it happen. Okay? So if you folks don't, all I have to say to you, you don't know me, you don't have to know me. The things I share, I don't want to know. I'm cursed with seeing things that are happening before they're going to happen. And I'm telling you, we are headed for a civil war. So you can sit back on your asses back there and watch your stupid TV and hang out with your friends and get high every night and not prepare. But it's coming. And you have to figure out what you're going to do to ensure the safety of your family and yourselves. I'm not going to be like the brother who came on earlier and taking it to the streets there. I'm not there yet. Don't think I ain't prepared to do it. But I ain't going nowhere. But I'm also going to say you should have a passport because you can't even come back in here from Mexico or Canada now without a passport. And you might decide you want to leave. You know me, I coach surfers from around the world. I got safe houses all over the place. I saw this coming. I've been telling you folks since 2012 this is coming. Charlottesville ain't even the tip of the iceberg was planned. And while you're being distracted with this, Trump and the boys have just turned West Virginia's governor into a Republican. They're one state away from now having their Article 5 convention. And with an Article 5 convention, there will be no federal government power. Wake up, folks. Everything we do as black folks, as women, as most whites in general, who think they're part of the plan because they're not, is done because you're protected under federal law. Now, Trump comes out today with his BS and how he's now talked to Jeff Sessions and he's talked to the FBI director to investigate. Do you really think Donald Trump, whose father was a Klan member. Donald Trump, who had David Duke at Charlottesville endorsing the fact that Donald Trump's in the White House when this whole thing was going on. Donald Trump, who's appointed people to the Civil Rights Division to emasculate it as far as criminal activity regarding crimes against blacks, women, and others, but instead are going to not prosecute colleges that are pushing affirmative action programs. Do you really think Donald Trump gives a damn about this white guy in Virginia who just ran over somebody who was supporting the colored folks out there in the street? Wake the hell up. It took Donald Trump 3 days to even acknowledge that there might be some terrorist groups in this country that are white. We are headed for a civil war. So I'm going to step down off that platform, Mr. Nelson, and I'm going to go ahead and let you say what you want to say, but I'm just going to say this in passing. I spent many years wearing a rubber flag on my clothes and in my vehicle, and I did it for one reason and one reason alone. The true racists in this country who worship the ground that flag flies on, they didn't know how to deal with a Negro showing their bars, the stars and bars. It took the power away from them of intimidating black folks, because that's what they use it for. It's a terror tool. I took that power away from them because I used to fly that flag. And they would go ape. They'd take photographs like, can you believe this? They didn't know what to do. I quit doing that after Obama got elected because these Negroes who allowed Obama to get in the White House, the true racists came out in such fashion. I now didn't want to give them the power by any longer flying that rubber flag. So ever since Barack Obama was elected, I don't show the stars and bars anymore. But for many years, I used those stars and bars against them psychologically because, I studied psyops. Because I knew they didn't know how to handle.
Hold that thought right there. We're going to take a quick break. I'll let you finish your thought. And we got some people got questions for you right here at 800-450-7876 on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. There's a bunch of folks want to speak to you, Mark. I'm going to let you finish up what you're saying before I take some calls for you.
Well, I was just saying before the break that I used to use their symbols against them, psychologically speaking, psyops, because they didn't know what to do when they see some colored boy walking around with a rubber flag. Because they like to be able to wear that rubber flag thinking it's intimidating or scaring colored folks. And you folks need to go back and see the movie if you haven't seen The Birth of a Nation. And there's no accident that movie came back out. Now, that movie was the first movie ever shown in the White House. Woodrow Wilson, one of the most racist bastards ever in the White House, he praised that movie as being historically accurate and like a documentary. And in that movie, of course, I'm from South Carolina. It features all these black folks in the South Carolina House of Representatives eating fried chicken and getting ready to go out to rape white women and stuff, okay? Seriously, I couldn't find that movie. For many years, I could not get a copy of that movie. So all of a sudden, after Barack Hussein Obama's back in the White House, I'm like, why would this movie be available now? Of course, I went out and got the greatest copy with all the different versions of it. Another movie I couldn't find for years, which some of Carl Nelson's listeners out here in L.A. used to call me, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. I could not get that movie. Could not find that movie anywhere. Suddenly, around the time Barack Hussein Obama's getting elected, this movie is available. Folks, they want that out there because they're using all the stuff that was making some people conscious while making other people angry. They want this crap out there. Well, these two I mentioned is not really crap, because you really need to study this to know the idea and mentality of white folks who really hate anybody who they don't feel should be under the authoritarian rule of a dictator. But what I'm just saying is many of the movies that I wanted so badly to have copies of for so many years, I could not get. And then all of a sudden they're back on the scene. And that's not by accident. Now, this demonstration that happened in Charlottesville over the weekend, these white folks had that plan for a long time and had a secret location nearby where they all moved from. Now, you got a guy who comes all the way out there from Ohio, premeditated, and he's being charged with second-degree murder. And I told Mr. Nelson earlier offline, I said, I'm kind of glad they charged him with second degree, because usually what they'll do is overcharge the person knowing that with a white jury or somebody on that jury who's white, he'll never get the conviction, then he'll walk away free. At least under a second-degree murder, he might be found guilty. Notice I say might. I'm not making any prediction on this one, but I'm also not saying don't expect this guy to be doing the time in prison. You thinking damn sure don't expect the federal government under Donald Trump. But I want to go back to something I said before the break. Since I was educated by these folks, and I do know law, I stated earlier that Donald Trump's father was in the Klan. So let me make this clear. Donald Trump's father was arrested at a Klan rally where he was an obvious supporter participating in the rally. Since he was not convicted, we have no documentation he was a Klan member. So let me just clarify this and retract that statement and state, since Donald Trump's father was an obvious supporter of the Ku Klux Klan and was arrested supporting and participating in a Klan rally on the side of the Klan. Last thing, Mr. Nelson, I'm not a big supporter of tearing down Civil War statues. Because, see, I've talked to many Germans when they visit this country, and they don't know a damn thing about Hitler, because for many years in Germany, they weren't allowed to discuss the Nazi concentration camps. They weren't allowed to discuss Hitler. So you have a whole generation of Germans who grew up never knowing anything about Hitler. I see the same thing happening in this country. When you tear those statues down, you're not allowing people who may have not known this history to ever know this history, especially those visiting from another country. So what I suggest instead, you go to every location where they have one of these Civil War statues and put these guys on a pedestal, but you get to put the plaque on that statue saying how he was a seditionist, how he was an enemy of the state, and how, unlike Abraham Lincoln, who just forgave them and let them go back to their states, where many of them became leaders again and just continued this crap later on by creating the Ku Klux Klan and other subversive organizations during the Reconstruction era. What they should have been is hanged for treason. I'll get off my soapbox now.
All right. As I mentioned, a bunch of folks from across the country, I guess they're calling to speak to you. 800-450-7876. Let's go to North Carolina on line 1.
Damn.
Jan is calling. Jan.
Damn. Jan, I'm going to pray for you and everybody else in North Carolina, because you got a Democratic who won the governorship, and these racist bastards in the House of Representatives in North Carolina are blocking everything he's trying to do to make that state move forward. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, sister.
Oh, yes. Good afternoon to you, Brother Carl and Brother Mark. And, yes, we voted and we went out and full force to make sure we got that Democratic governor. But what I wanted to say was, if the government does not want us here, why don't they give us the reparations or funds to leave? Because I'm sure that there are other countries that would embrace us if when we went there we didn't have our hands out and we had the funds and we were ready to settle and start businesses and become an asset to that country. And another thing I want to ask you is that where are the people of money and influence that do not agree with the white supremacists? Aren't there people out there that do not agree with removing the federal government? And don't they have influence? And aren't they ready to stop this before a war? And also, who does it benefit to have this civil war? I mean, I know defense contractors, but, I mean, that seems like that doesn't make sense when you think about within the nation itself. But I don't understand all this. Where are the people to stand up against the people that's causing all this chaos? Where are they? Why are they lying down before we get to the point of a civil war? And thank you, and please do pray for us, and thank you for taking my call.
All right. One, the government does not want us here. Folks, we are the government. It's sad because when Ronald Reagan came into the White House, and he was a John Birch Society member, folks. In fact, he used to write many of the speeches for Barry Goldwater when Barry Goldwater ran in '64. Reagan and his ilk, along with Newt Gingrich and the boys, and remember, Newt Gingrich got into Congress because the head of the John Birch Society was allegedly killed on Korean Airlines Flight 007 by a Russian missile. Anyway, we are the government. And when Reagan came in, and these folks who hate the federal government, let me make this very clear for you folks. Reagan, and now Trump on steroids, Reagan, these are the folks who are representing the same folks who wanted the Civil War to maintain slavery. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic, let me just make this very simple to you. People can make all the excuses or give all the reasons for why we had a Civil War. But even Ulysses S. Grant made a prediction 6 months before these redneck racist bastards from my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina at the Citadel fired the shots at Fort Sumter. because the Citadel is a South Carolina military institute. For you folks don't know history, I'm not going to lie on you. The Second Amendment is not about having gun rights to protect yourself from an invading foreign army or the federal government. The Second Amendment is about places like the Citadel, VMI, Virginia Military Institute, that had their militias to keep the niggers down when the slaves went out and rioted during times of slavery. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. That's why the NRA is not going to defend some black woman who's protecting herself from her ex-husband who's trying to kill her down there in a garage in Florida. That's why the NRA is not going to protect some black family who the father of her child is shot and killed by a cop when he tells the cop, I have a permit, I'm armed with a firearm, I'm reaching for my license now. Because the NRA was invented initially to support that militia-type mentality to keep the Negroes down. Later on, the NRA developed into what they call a firearm safety program, was in bed with the Boy Scouts and things like that. I became a member. Hell, I'm the official NRA range master and FBI certified range master. But as myself, in 1994, George Herbert Walker Bush and I both quit the NRA because the NRA by that time had been bought out by the lobbyists and had become nothing but a propaganda tool for these racists under the Newt Gingrich Congress, and still hanging on to the Ronald Reagan era where these evangelicals suddenly decided they're going to start getting into politics, and they came in with their right-wing agenda, and they saw their chance to bring the South back. Now, I came on Mr. Nelson's show back in the early 90s, and I told them, you guys can sit here and talk all the crap you want. You got Strom Thurmond, you got Jesse Helms, you got Bill Clinton, you got, all these folks like Newt Gingrich up there with the most powerful positions in the White House. And I said to Mr. Nelson, I don't give a damn if they're Democratic or Republican. What do they all have in common? They are from the South. So when Charlie Daniels came out with that song back in the in the late 70s called Be Proud You Were Living, because the South's going to do it again. They have done it, folks, and you sat back and watch it happen. The neo-Confederates, and we got a break coming up, so I'm going to have to finish her four-wing question.
Hold that thought right there. 800-450. So, Brother Mark, I'm going to let you finish up what you're saying, and we got a bunch of folks who want to speak to you.
Well, I guess my point to the sister is, it's sad because when we hear the term government, we need to recognize, just like in the church, the building, the structure is not the church. The people are the church. The government are not these folks up there in District of Criminals, D.C. We are the government. But unfortunately, we've had Tea Party libertarians and others who really hate the federal government, and they've continued that hate because it was the federal government who forced them to shift from the, as Grant said, 6 months before the first shots were fired. Are you idiots? We are in the industrial age. You are in the agricultural age. We have the ability to make weapons. You can't make anything. You can barely make clothing. Okay, seriously, folks. So they can say all they want about why we had a civil war. I'm just going to make it clear to you, and I'm going to make it simple. We need to reduce the population. How do you do that? Have a civil war and also have a world war. And they're coming because they don't need you anymore. We are now headed from the industrial age into the technological age. Even here in California now, they're widening all the roads, highways, and streets. Why? Because the automatic vehicles, the autonomous vehicles with no drivers, need wider lanes so the computers can read the lane lines on the road. You got strikers down here at Long Beach Naval Ship, the docks, no longer naval. Long Beach and L.A. San Pedro shipyards are on strike for what? Most of them have to buy their own trucks or lease their trucks from the company, and they make so little money that they're in debt after they've been spending the whole 12 months driving. Worse, they're going to put autonomous vehicles down there. Meanwhile, you got companies like XPO or whatever lying about the employee status and calling them, independent contractors when they're actually full-time employees and not paying them crap. They don't need you anymore. You can sit here and talk your boycott. You don't even know who the hell to boycott because you don't even know who owns the companies anymore. 97% of all media in this country now is controlled by 5 corporations, and you think the name on it means who owns it. So when the sister talks about the government, we are the government. Unfortunately, we've allowed the lobbyists to come and subvert all power and authority between us and the folks that we put on Capitol Hill. So I'm not going anywhere. I don't need the government to pay me some money to go to another country. I was born here, and I'm going to die here. And I don't know where the sister thinks she's going to go, but what makes you think some other country wants you? Because if you think it's so easy to go to another country right now, just try to go over there as a tourist. Try to go over there by yourself right now with your own money and see. They don't want you. Try to go to Canada and think, well, Canada's talking about building a wall. Keep us out. So I don't know what this sister's talking about, because I talk to people from around the world, and I don't know any countries that are all open and enthusiastic to bring some Americans over there, especially black Americans, who we don't even know our history of what country from Africa we're from. So like the brother said earlier in the show, before I came on, I ain't going to sell no pipe dreams. As far as what she said is, where are the people to stop this? Now, that's an important question. Sister, it's always been said, evil flourishes when good people stand by and do nothing. Now, during the 60s, we still had the draft. One of the smartest moves under the Nixon administration to get the white kids to go back to school and campus and not protest the war anymore, cut a deal with college students. If they maintain a certain grade point average, they didn't have to worry about the draft. So they stopped demonstrating. And then what you do is you make an all-volunteer military. I hate that term military, so I'll say all-volunteer armed forces. Then what you do, you don't raise minimum, as we call it in this country, when you go in and get a job and you want to have minimum wage. Minimum wage in this country hasn't really raised since the 1970s. If we were to get paid today minimum wage salary based on 1970 standards, the average minimum wage employee would be $17 an hour. You flood the market with women in the workforce because they think they're fighting for their rights, even though Gloria Steinem was a CIA person who's leading them down that path. You don't even see this plan. See, these folks look 20, 30 years down the road. So when you think you're fighting the system, you're doing exactly what the system wants. For the first time since the 70s, we had more employees than we needed, which means you no longer have to pay them the salaries they demand, which means Reagan could come in and start destroying the unions by going after the air traffic controllers. So, you get rid of the unions. You get rid of the draft. You make it next to impossible for anybody to get a real job anymore with a pension or a retirement plan. So you have to work 2 to 3 jobs part-time, no medical, no dental. Sister, let's be realistic here. Folks ain't out there on the front line like they were back in the 60s. Why? Because they can't afford to. They're afraid they're going to lose their damn jobs. And then when you got a state like Missouri who says, if you fire somebody now, whether they're black, whether they're women, whatever reason you fire them, we're going to back you. And we ain't going to allow no whistleblowers to get protection if they come out and talk about how these employers are screwing over their employees. Sister, that's where they got you now. They've got the American population, generally speaking, in such a position today where they're so worried about what they say or what they do, the protest is over. The folks that are out there, most of them protesting now, are the ones who are already with no jobs, are the homeless, because they're already out in the streets. Those folks who are working 2 to 3 part-time jobs and no benefits, they can't afford to go out there and protest and be seen on TV or someplace else and tomorrow morning lose their damn job. Let's be real here. And last but not least, folks, please don't ask me 4 questions in one again. Who does it benefit from the Civil War? All right, James Madison was one of the so-called founding fathers of this country. I've said this on this show before, and I will say it again, because you're not going to hear this on right-wing radio, and you're not going to hear this on left-wing radio. James Madison specifically stated, as a founding father, the role of the government is to protect the opulent minority from the majority. So for you folks who are listening today who are white and think you're part of the plan, if you're not part of the opulent minority, you are not. And all the laws that are set up for the federal government are to protect. So now you got guys like Trump and his administration, they're going back to enforce that. And that's why you will see all these situations like the brother talked about earlier with the EPA, DOE. It's not an attack against blacks. It's an attack against anybody who's not part of the opulent minority. They're going to get rid of all these laws. They're going to increase the tax cuts for the wealthy, and they're going to screw the rest of us. I'm sorry for that long-winded answer. Please, folks, have a little respect here today. What I'm going to do is, if you keep asking all these four-pronged questions, I'm just going to pick one and answer that and move on, because too many people are waiting to talk.
That's right. 800-450-7876. Go to Long Beach, California on line 3. Johnny's waiting for us. Johnny, you're on with Mark from Anaheim.
Hey, guys, what's up?
Yo, bro.
How y'all doing?
How you doing,
Hey,
bro?
look, Mark and Carl, just Saturday out there, who was out there protesting? The majority of people are white, weren't they? And there were
Exactly.
people against white people, right? And they were fighting
Exactly.
against each other.
Right.
And okay, so here you got people who are fighting. They were fighting for discrimination towards the people who were against the protesters were fighting against for us. These other people showed up. They showed up they showed up for a battle. They
Body armor, rifles, shotguns,
and
the cops sat by and did nothing.
Right, and Mike, there were some people out there, and I want to ask you this: do you know about who these people were? In paramilitary garb, man. Who they were just dressed down. Do you know who the guys were?
Those guys were part of this organization that was in a secret location until right before the demonstration that came out. And I'm going to tell you something. If you think cops in Charlottesville ain't part of that clique with them, let me just make this simple. Charlottesville Police Department had a staging area. And when reporters would find themselves like, oh, hell, this something's getting ready to happen, the cops go, hey, come over here. It's safe over here. It wasn't the police that threw tear gas. It was some of those guys in body armor and weapons. They were throwing tear gas, and then the cops said, oh, time to go. So the news reporter's like, whoa, where you going? We're getting the hell out of here. So what I'm just telling you, listen, you're talking to somebody here who has been in far more than his share of demonstrations, working for LAPD. And I'm going to tell you straight up, folks, there were many times when, because I was there, it didn't turn into what you saw on Saturday. Because these other white folks, they wanted it to happen. And I'm talking white folks in LAPD uniform. But because I was there, I stopped it. And they got pissed at me because they wanted to beat some heads. And I'm telling you right now, those cops already knew these guys were going to do something, and these cops stood down and let it happen. But I'm sorry, Johnny, go ahead.
And Mark, but these people took off, man. I don't know where these people are today, man.
Well, not only that, there's one guy who's a well-known white separatist who's clearly seen on video punching and beating this one individual, and I haven't seen him charged yet.
Right,
So,
and what I'm saying is, like, when we have people who are fighting against their racism towards us, it's like it seems like we're trying to alienate those people, and they feel like they have a special agenda when they don't want a civil war either. And that's what it seems to me, that we got some people on both sides. They want a civil war to have to take place.
brother, it's called divide and conquer. So many folks in this country right now are confused. They don't know who to trust or believe. The job has been done, a very good job at divide and conquer. So even when you have well-meaning, well-intended, good, decent white folks who really want to come out to help you, you got other folks talking this black national crap where you don't trust no damn blue-eyed white devil. And so I'm just going to tell you straight out. You can talk all the crap you want. But you know what? Harriet Tubman and all these folks in the Underground Railroad, it was white women who waited till their damn husbands left that plantation. It was white women who helped Harriet Tubman and everybody else sneak those slaves off those damn plantations. You call it the way you want. But trust me, folks, you got to be careful, like the brother's saying, screen out the background and find out whether they can pass your security check. But when it comes to the enemy of the state, and when I say the enemy of the state, where you got folks today who just want to have the opulent minority protected by the majority, from the majority, my allies come in all colors and every gender, including transvestites.
Mark, and I agree with you 100%, man. Mine do too, okay? And I can't cheat from. I don't care, man, because I know that they're good people.
Brother, I started to show off today by dedicating it to D-Down Kamathi. I started to show off today talking about the Black Surfers Collective. I started to show today talking about a Pan-African surf event in Santa Monica. Who was the lead instructor? A white woman. So you guys talk your crap all you want.
Hey, Mark, when you talk about the Underground Railroad, I mean, there's a documentary that happened to see, and I think the guy, I forgot, it was a white guy, was Ben Stitt, it was a guy named Chill. There were a black man and a white man who never knew each other. But Harriet Tubman would go to the white man to get money from him. And this is the thing that I know about. So it's like, if white people were so bad, why would she be using them in Underground Railroad?
I'll just make it simple, brother. Let's bring it to the present. Who the hell do you think taught me to make it possible for me to come on this show today and tell you what's coming down?
and Mark, and you and I, that's what I'm talking about, man. I've been around white people who educated me about how white people are. I've learned how to deal with them, how to beat them at their own game by paying attention. I know how to beat them at their game. I'm not one of them, and I'm not trying to ever be like them. But this thing about when we try to be like white people, no, I think what it is that we know what's going on.
Why do you think I'm in the surfing community? I'm in the surfing community because surfing has a lot of races, and they go ape crazy when they see me out on that beach coaching white girls, and they don't know what to do. Seriously, that's psychological warfare, and I'm very good at everything I do.
Hang on, folks. Johnny, I thank you for your call. We got to take a quick break here, and thanks for staying with us, folks. Our guest, Mark from Anaheim, discussing what went on in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend. I just got a tweet from the vice mayor of Charlottesville, Dr. Wes Bellamy. He was supposed to join us, but he says they just called him in the last minute to do a community forum on what happened over the weekend, so he's working hard on that. But anyway, you can work hard with Mark from Anaheim, 800-450-7876. Mark, did you finish your last response with Johnny from Long Beach?
Dude, there's no way in the world that Vice Mayor of Charlottesville is going to come on this show if I'm on here. That didn't happen. So I'm sure they were listening to your show before they, look at the time, I'm going to go. And I'm very familiar with Charlottesville. I haven't been back there in a while, but Mr. Nelson, I mean, my Facebook status right now, I know it seems a little flippant and maybe a little sarcastic, as it usually is, but I said, when I had haters, how did I deal with the bigots? I didn't confront them one-on-one, man-on-man. Back in the days when I was a slut, instead, I ended up sleeping with their female relatives, who often provided me with all the family secrets. Because I always was taught to work smarter, not harder. So I was up there in Charlottesville back in the early 80s, because I went back to Quantico when Nix was the White House, I went to Quantico High School. But I was back in Quantico back in 81 for officer school, and then later on the basic school. Then I had to go back there for infantry officer course. So I was up in Virginia and Quantico back from the summer of 81 through the spring of 82. And on the weekends, I would drive up to Charlottesville. I had a Jeep at the time. And when I was driving, I had a 45 on me, had my shotgun with me. And I went to a honking tonk not too far from the campus of UVA, because I saw Hank Williams Jr. on the marquee, and he was playing there. So I pulled into the parking lot, and I walked inside the honky tonk, paid my money to get in. As soon as I walked in, I kid you not, the opening band, they saw this Negro walk into this honky tonk. The opening warm-up band stopped playing. Everybody turned around and looked at me like, what the hell do you want? I turned around, didn't ask for no refund, got in my Jeep, and I left that parking lot with rocks flying like in this song by Charlie Daniels called Uneasy Rider. I am not making this stuff up. I went on the UVA. In fact, I just posted this on my Mark from Anaheim Political Sarcasm 101 Facebook site, because I have photographs of the Chi Omega sorority at the UVA, because the Chi Omegas at the College of Charleston, Mr. Nelson, tried to have me permanently expelled, because those girls you took some hardcore neo-Confederate racists. Oh, God. And they went to the College of Charleston, the entire panel, to try to have me permanently expelled from school. And you know what saved me from being expelled at the College of Charleston by the Chi Omegas, Mr. Nelson? They had a ritual where they would take their freshmen who were going to be hopeful Chi Omegas, have them paint up in blackface, and would walk through the black neighborhood of Charleston, South Carolina, that was the surrounding areas of the College of Charleston, down to Colonial Lake. Now, for you folks who don't know anything about Charleston, Colonial Lake, they would bring the slaves on ships into the Charleston harbor. Then they would transport them on small boats into Colonial Lake, which is surrounded by the most historic homes in downtown Charleston. And that's where they would put them on auction blocks to be sold. Okay, that's the history of Colonial Lake. They might be gone now because I haven't been home in a while, but they were actually still some of the old cement, because if you didn't know the history, you didn't know what this was, but the old cement blocks where they used to have the slaves to be sold on Colonial Lake. So anyway, these white girls from Chi Omegas, they would paint up in blackface, walk through the black neighborhood to Colonial Lake, and then have this stupid ritual called the cockroach race, where they'd have a cockroach inside of a matchbox, and turn that into a sailboat and see whose mail matchbox will get across the Colonial Lake in time. So when they brought me in and asked me had I sent this letter to the Kayamegas, I guess they thought I was going to lie to them. I don't lie, folks. So they tossed this letter to me. I say, babe, this is the College of Charleston School Board, okay? The College of Charleston School Board throws this letter across the room while I'm sitting at this table with this Kayamega group and everybody else. And they say, what is this? And I said, oh, that's a letter I sent to the Kayamegas. Oh, so you admit it? You're damn right I admit it. Well, you think I'm going to lie to you? See, that's what they were hoping. See, if I had lied, then they could kick me out of college on a technical violation for lying to the school board. I didn't lie to them. You're damn right I sent that letter. Now, you guys bring me into this kangaroo... No, I'm telling you, this happened to me back in 79. You bring me into this kangaroo court with all your highfalutin College of Charleston professors and deans and this Kayamega sorority, and you're trying to run me out of school because I sent a letter to the Kayamegas that they know was not a threat. But you don't say a damn thing about these white girls dressing up in black space walking through the black neighborhoods down at Colonial Lake. And guess what, Mr. Nelson? I graduated from the college. Not only did I graduate from the College of Charleston, I was the College of Charleston's #1 academic person here in California. And they follow me on Facebook every day because, see, you need to know how they operate, folks. You need to know how to fight on their grounds. And if you don't, you're going to lose the battle. And I'm just going to tell you, a lot of what I heard the brother saying before I came on, you guys are going to lose the battle. You ain't even started the war yet.
All right. Got a bunch of folks holding for you. 800-450-7876. Go to line 5. Ao's somewhere in Chicago. Ao, you're on with Mark from Anaheim.
Hoorah! All right, my brother. It's always
brother, listen. Hey, brother, this is important. You're in Cook County. Let me just refresh the memory for the listeners here. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. conducted marches all over the country. Do you want to know the only march where he got his ass kicked and was able to complete the march? Cook County, Illinois, in the city of Cicero.
I'm not far from Cicero either, but I tell you what, I'm very understanding of what the Furby Labs up here and what they're doing. But
Hell yeah.
Going to a quicker phase between this so-called racist civil war, which is just an attribute of the death threats that we are under.
Yes.
Do you think that is a greater risk to humanity than Fukushima or World War? You see, I'm trying to point out to people that the concept of having a bag that you can snatch and run with, it has to be versatile in all of these circumstances, not just one.
Yes.
And see, one of the things that Mark's pointing out to you that he ain't saying to you outright is that this is only one thing that y'all talking about.
There it is.
Plethora.
They're hitting you with a plethora of a 10-prong attack from all sides. Because Hitler used to hit you. They used to do this constant bam, 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 and you never recover from any of them. And before you finish the first one, they hit you with the next one. But I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I wanted to answer one basic question.
Yes, sir.
What's going to be your point of embarkation when things break off? Do you plan on staying in here and digging in? Because
okay, yeah, all right.
We like to be around. We like to be around like-minded people.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to tell the first casualty of war is the truth, and you don't tell people what your plans are. But as I said on Mr. Nelson's show the last time up here, I am not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here. I don't know Liberia. I don't know Sierra Leone. I don't know West Africa. And all the contacts I've had when I was a cop on LAPD, when I would stop these West Africans, they had no respect for me because I didn't know my language and I didn't know my religion. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was a major slut back in those days and I was dating women who came here to go to school from those countries, those guys would have treated me like crap. But when I would throw somebody's name out who was obviously a high-ranking member of some family brought over here from their country, all of a sudden the brothers would change their attitude. Hey, sorry, brother, go ahead and write me the ticket, man. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect you. I wish I was making this up. I ain't going nowhere.
Damn, brother. I know what you're saying, brother, because I'm going to tell you something. We either all stand, we all fall, but we don't leave nobody behind.
We ain't leaving nobody behind.
Take your time.
We ain't leaving nobody behind.
All right, thanks, AO. Thanks for your call. 800-450-7876. Before I take another call, just in from the news department here at WOL. The disappearance of North Korea's Kim Jong-un is sparking concerns that a missile launch could be imminent, possibly tomorrow. So just folks, I just wanted to keep you informed here. That's the folks in our newsroom just passed this on to me that Kim Jong-un he's been missing for quite some time, and there could be a launch tomorrow. And that's just the information from the newsroom.
All right.
Anyway, I know Mark wants to comment on that, so I'm going to let him comment on that before I take another call.
I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson. Listen, folks, look, the Korean thing is a distraction, okay? The Trump administration talks their crap. Trump has had people over there talking with the North Korean leaders since he got sworn in. In fact, before he got sworn in. They can always use North Korea to scare people and everything else. Now, what my concern was, and for the folks out there, trust me when I tell you this. When you're bored and got some time on your hands, just go back and research Operation Gladio. Gladio. Operation Gladio. What my concern was, when the leader of North Korea said, and I don't use that term North Korea, there's only Korea. Just because the U.S. decides to come in and divide it, the 54th parallel, there's only Korea. But anyway, when the leader of North Korea comes out and says, well, damn, I might shoot 4 missiles off the coast of Guam just to see if I got the range. Let me be very clear about this. The Korean War, as they call it, has never ended. All we've had was basically an armistice or a peace, like a ceasefire agreement. The war never ended. If North Korea was to fire 4 missiles in the general direction of Guam, I would have to support Donald Trump retaliating, because we really don't know if those missiles were going to actually be shot to go near Guam, off the coast of Guam, or to actually land in Guam. And with our Air Force base and our naval weapons and our submarines in Guam, even I would have to say, if any missiles were fought in the general direction of Guam, you got to retaliate. So I know we got a break coming up, but I'll finish that one on the other side.
All right, folks, you two can join with Mark from Anaheim next, right here on FM. So Mark from Anaheim, the number is 800-450-7876. And Mark, I think you want to finish up what we were saying.
I just want to say my concern was always that once the leader of North Korea stated he might fire weapons off of the coast of Guam, and I strongly suggest you folks just research Operation Gladio. I was concerned that certain elements within this country would stage some type of terrorist attack in Guam and make it look as if it was the responsibility of the North Koreans to have performed it, and would be used to justify us. It's kind of like the Gulf of Tonkin, which was, the whole thing was staged. Gulf of Tonkin never really happened. The U.S. had been using what we call MAC-VSOG, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam Special Operations Group, Navy SEALs, Recon, other special forces, had been attacking Vietnamese, Cambodians, and Laotians for like 7 years before Kennedy ever got us into the war. But, and the North Vietnamese were getting fed up with it. And so, of course, once Kennedy was dragged into this war, Johnson, of course, said he was going to give them the war, but that whole Gulf of Tonkin thing was staged, and I was concerned that it would be something that would happen in Guam, which would victimize U.S. citizens to really get us to rally behind the Trump administration and Mad Dog Mattis. But kidnapping or making it look like the North Korean leader had disappeared can serve the same purpose. So even though I'm laughing at this, folks, this is very deadly serious. I'm just going to tell you straight out. I said this on Mr. Nelson's show, I think 3 months ago. Never in my lifetime have I seen us closer to World War than now. And I already told you, we are headed for a civil war, and we are headed for a world war. And they may just use North Korea as the preemptive, but it's all about reducing the world's population. Let's move on, sir.
So you're saying you may see another false flag in the making here?
Hell yeah, this disappearance might be a false flag. The North Koreans and the U.S. government have been talking, including Dennis Rodman, since Donald Trump's been in the White House. And all this saber rattling, as they call it, between Trump and this North Korean leader. In fact, their psychological personalities are very similar. Both spoiled brats who, never really worked for anything they got. And they're very similar in what they say. Those guys are not, the nuclear war option. One of the things that was really unique about the nuclear war, and I had some great mentors, but I learned early on that the chances of ever having another nuclear war per se was not going to happen because there are no winners. And now that we're talking about nuclear wars, both the North Korean leader as well as our leader, that's just a bunch of saber rattling. There's a whole lot of negotiations going on behind the scenes. However, now they're announcing that the leader of North Korea has disappeared. What kind of message do you think that has sent to the North Koreans right now? The first thing they're going to say is Navy SEALs or Eric Prince and his private military mercenaries. Somebody has done some harm. Because the whole thing was, instead of attacking North Korea, let's just do a regime change. Now, this leader has already been accused of killing his brother with nuclear, biological, chemical weapons. So it would not surprise me in the least that this right now might be a false flag, but to the people of North Korea, all they're going to think of is the U.S. has done something to their leaders, and now some rogue general with all these artillery units that's up the hill from Seoul with 35 to 60,000 U.S. personnel in uniform there, depending on who you talk to, and hundreds of thousands of South Korean residents down below. I don't give a damn what the U.S. does. There is no way in the world the U.S. can stop the North Koreans from raining hell on South Korea. So if you get some rogue general now in the North Korean army who thinks that the U.S. has done something to the leader of North Korea, it's on. Folks, I'm not being hyperbolic here. You don't hear me laughing now. I'm serious. It's on. It's on. Because North Korea's ally is China. And that's how it always happens. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that one little incident with this disappearance of this North Korean leader, which may not even be true, but could have been staged, can set up a domino effect, folks, that you have no idea was getting ready to happen worldwide.
All right. 800-450-7876. All these folks being very patient with us. Brother Ski is next up in California. He's on line 4. Brother Ski, thank you for being patient. Is Brother Ski still with us?
Thanks for even taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
Brother, where in California are you from?
You ask me this all the time. I think you just answering this so I could say it again. You know I'm in Gardenia, man. I just
want the folks to know. I was in your neck of the woods eating at my favorite Peruvian restaurant a couple days ago, because most folks don't know Peru is still run by the Japanese. But I use you to try to get that message out. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh boy, where should I start? It's just what happens in the last since I've been listening on. So I'm gonna just start right where I wanted to start at.
You still working out?
Yeah, man, I'm still working out. I'm 195 pounds, man.
I thought about you yesterday because when I was at the Black Surfer Collective, there was a brother on the beach, and this is very important, Mr. Nelson. Don't even mean it to my madness. There was a brother on the beach practicing in martial art right out in front of all those white folks and letting them know he's getting ready. But I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
All right, so I guess would you really explain? Because a lot of us are misinformed about the Civil War. So when you say that word, there's going to be a Civil War.
Yes.
They looking at it in that form that the Civil War was about slavery and all that. Now, because a lot of us been misled about that war. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two. See, I'm originally from Queen City, North Carolina. My mom was born
and that city was named after a mulatto, but go ahead.
Right. My mom was born in Black Mountain, North Carolina.
Right, which was featured in the movie with Nicole Kidman, Coal Mountain.
Right. So I've been having visions all my life, and I want to support what you are saying. What you're saying is not wrong, people, but my vision has always been completed. At the end, we win.
Right.
See,
I have that vision too. I had that vision last
time. We win, people. See, we act like we're not really ready See, but there's a force greater than us. And I'm not even a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not nothing. I'm a God. And I'm telling you, in the end, we win.
Good triumphs over evil.
Right. It's about evil. And so if you really look at the history, everybody comes on, even some of our black scholars and our business, and they talk about opportunity, they talk about economy, they talk about everything. And they always say we at the standstill, but they don't never tell the other side.
Right.
They at the same standstill, too. Because if we don't get no better, they don't get no better. That's like a man holding his feet on your neck, and he can't move, and you can't move. But in the end, people, just think about this. We win.
That's
There's
correct.
Be some casualty. We're going to have some casualties, but we win.
Correct. No, you have no disagreement from me, brother. Seriously. No, we win, yeah.
So explain
And
that.
some of us won't be here to see it. Well, some of us won't be here to see it, but yeah, in the end, yeah, we win.
We win.
All right.
Right.
Thank you, Brother Ski. All right, Mark, you want to expound on that? Because we've got a bunch
Yeah,
of
well,
folks.
see, when the brother says the Civil War, okay, listen. About 4 years ago, well, you missed us. You remember the Bundy Ranch incidents, correct? Bundy Ranch, where they, all these white neo-Nazis and neo-Confederates out in Nevada were on a ranch, and they weren't going to listen to the federal government, and they came out armed to the teeth, and basically Obama didn't do anything, because what they were trying to do is create up another situation like a Randy Weaver situation, where under the Clinton administration, federal government ended up killing Randy Weaver's wife and his dog and all this other stuff. Well, basically the Obama administration stood down and looked like punks. And then later on, of course, before Obama left the White House, some of these same people from the Bundy Ranch took over a federal land that was originally, of course, Native American land, and these white folks up there, up in the Pacific Northwest. But I say this to you because there was a couple out of Indiana. Now remember, folks, Indiana, your vice president, who's just waiting in the wings for you all to run Donald Trump out, because that was the plan all along, to get rid of Trump and put in Mike Pence, the most evil guy who's ever been elected, in my humble opinion, second only to Ted Cruz. In Indiana, they passed a law, thanks to the same oath keepers who are using the Gene Sharp dictatorship democracy to create all this anger and hatred. The leaders of the oath keepers that all these dumb idiot cops think are their friends in Indiana passed a law that they can shoot cops if they believe that a cop is violating their civil rights. Well, so when the brothers talk about the Civil War thing, down in the Bundy Ranch, there was a couple from Indiana who left that ranch and shot and killed, because you guys think this is about black and white. It's not. Shot and killed 2 white cops just having lunch in a restaurant in Las Vegas. And when they shot and killed them, they painted swastikas on them and put their little flag on them and said, "The war has begun." So let me make this very clear to you folks. The Civil War did not start this weekend in Charlottesville, if that's what you're getting from Mr. Nelson saying, "I warned you about this." The Civil War has been going on since Obama's been in the White House. It's just that they choose when they want to highlight what they want to put out there, because they ain't ramping it up enough to get you folks fired up enough to take it to the streets and start killing each other. But when the brother asked this question to define the Civil War, there's a civil war going on within the Democratic Party. There's a civil war going on within the Republican Party. And I'm not going to sit here saying I told you so, but the progressive far left are no more Democratic than the Tea Party, Libertarian, or Republicans. And basically the two parties, which are nothing in my opinion but 2 branches from the same tree, are so fractionalized now, we have no choice but to head for a military in the street civil war.
All right, hold that thought right there. 800-450-7876. Take another break and come back with more of your phone calls for Mark from Anaheim on FM 95. You want to take another call, or are you finished your comment?
202-633-4751.
Correct. That's it.
Yeah.
Give him a call.
So, I'm just going to say before we take the next call, Mr. Nelson, I have to thank you, and I have to thank Kathy Hughes for even waking me from the dead and making me come on the show today, because I told you I was not doing this anymore, and you keep bringing me back. But this is very important stuff, and what's really sad is if I wanted to be a typical whore like so many folks who look as we do, With my background, with my training, with my knowledge, right now I should be whoring myself out, putting on self-defense camps, putting on firearms training camps, putting on survival camps. Oh, worse, selling Mark from Anaheim bug-out bags to all these folks who look like I do, who would run out and buy it, so I can make lots of money. And I'm not doing that. Folks, I am providing you with information free of charge that you're not getting anywhere else. I come on this show today knowing that every time I come on this show, I'm risking my life. Because there are people out there who do not want you to hear what I'm sharing with you. What you choose to do with this information is on you. But it's time for you to put that damn smartphone down, put that iPad down, stop putting your family's personal business out there on all your social media sites. Stop showing disrespect to your mothers, your fathers, your grandfathers who's been out there on the front lines before you were ever here. And sadly, they don't share that information with you, so you don't understand the sacrifices we had to make for you to have the opportunities you have today. Now, back in 1996, before I went to a College of Charleston reunion, I held like a little College of Charleston alumni in California thing up at the LAPD Academy. This white woman comes up there, very affluent, and she says to me, you know, we never intended for so many of you to become middle class. Now, when she said you, of course, she's referring to black folks. And we plan on taking this country back. Folks, they're doing it. In fact, now that you got Trump in the White House, Pence is the vice president, they have done it. Wake the hell up. This is not a time for folks to be sitting around dilly-dallying anymore. You need to take this seriously. Much of what the brother said before I came on, I can't disagree with anything he said. And for the inner city folks, I'm just going to tell you straight out. Sometimes you got to throw down. I hope to God I don't get to that point, because I'm a very dangerous person. And folks know my white female surfers have maintained my sanity for the last 10 years. And they all know if the day comes, and that's what I was going to say earlier before we took our first break, Mr. Nelson, there's a legendary surfer out of Australia. His name is John Gordon, nicknamed Gordo. And John interviews me frequently when he comes out here for major professional surf contests. He goes, so Major Payne, because, you know, LAPD SWAT gave me that nickname, Major Payne. So, Major Payne, how do you have you survive all these years? And I told him, if it wasn't for surfing and sailing, I would have lost my mind a long time ago. Now, I'm very involved with professional women in surfing, coaching, mentoring some of the top female surfers in the world. But these folks know if the day comes when me being distracted by working with these girls, women, and surfing fails, I'm going to be right out there on the streets, and you do not want folks with my background and training out there on the streets. Let's take another call, man.
800-450-7876. Line 1, Brother Bay in the district. Brother Bay, you're on with Mark from Anaheim.
Yes, sir. Hey, Brother Call, Brother Mark.
What's that, brother?
Could you speak to and let the people know about when they go, they always talk about going to court. Can you speak to letting them know that they are in a maritime situation when they step into the courtroom? Because when I try to explain that to them, because I don't have the statute, they don't believe it. But I told them they're under maritime law and they don't even realize. And thank you very kindly for all you do.
All right, here's the thing about going to court. If you look at most of your churches and you look at most of your courtrooms, you see the same U.S. flag, because the churches don't get tax-exempt status for any, like, Joe Blow reason. They get tax-exempt status because they're a tool of the state. Most of your so-called black leaders are ministers in the church who are part of FEMA. They get paid by the federal government to pacify the Negroes. Go to church, all right? But what the brother's alluding to is this. Now, here out in L.A., now, mind you, folks, I told LAPD leadership more than a year before it happened that they would see the largest riots in U.S. history starting in L.A. after the 4 cops from LAPD were found not guilty in Rodney King. During that time, we were under martial law. That martial law was never rescinded. The L.A. riots were not confined to L.A. We had rioting throughout the United States. And under George Herbert Walker Bush, that martial law was not rescinded. In fact, I got orders to Kuwait during the riots, and the Marine Corps said, how soon can you respond
because we need you in Kuwait. And my response was, as soon as the damn rioting stops here in LAPD and headquarters Marine, and I still have the telegram, by the way, and headquarters Marine Corps sent me back a telegram and go, hey, disregard cowboy, you go out there and handle the riots. And I wish I was making this up. God, I wish I was making this up. My point to you is this. We have never rescinded martial law. Now, what the brother's alluding to is the Maritime flag, okay? And there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, but basically the United States flag does not have a gold trim around it. The U.S. flag is nothing more than Betsy Ross when the 13 colonies were formed. All they did was take the British East India trade. Oh, by the way, folks, under Eric Prince, with those 10,000 troops, not 4,000, that they want to send into Afghanistan now, they won't be U.S. armed forces. Eric Prince is convincing Trump and the rest of these war fanatics to send in private contractors, mercenaries, under the British East India Trade Company. So anyway, when George Washington was a real estate agent out here for the British East India Trade Company, he sold land to white folks, knowing that the Native Americans would kill him. And he would sell that same land over and over again. That's how he made his fortune, folks. Betsy Ross just took the British East India Trade Company flag, put 13 stars on it, and people sit there now and die and worship if you urinate or spit on the U.S. flag. It's not the U.S. flag. It's the British East India Trade Company flag. Then I got my Hawaiian, since I'm in the surfing. Now, you get a Hawaiian who wins the surf contest. They don't put the U.S. flag around themselves. They put the Hawaiian flag. It's not the Hawaiian flag. It's got the bloody British East India Trade Company right in the middle of their flag. The Hawaiian flag is green, and I don't ever respect the Hawaiian flag that they're using now. And for most of you Hawaiians listening today, you're black. I'm sorry you don't know that. But when the U.S. government took over those islands, it was a black Polynesian who was the queen of Hawaii. So what I'm just saying to you, when the brother says this, and he throws this out there because he probably knows, the fact is the U.S. flag, as we call it, with the 50 stars on it, has no borderline, has no trim around it. So if you see a U.S. flag with the yellow gold trim around it, that's based on maritime law, but they're basically telling you, you don't have any civil rights, you don't have any constitutional rights, because martial law under George Herbert Walker Bush in 1992 during the civil unrest nationwide has never been rescinded. I hope that helps.
800-450-7876. Go to Canada, line 5. Sadhu's calling us. Sadhu, you're on Mark from Anaheim.
Yes, sir, Mark. You're full of knowledge, man.
Hey, bro. Hey, check this out, bro. You up there north of the border, man. Tell these folks you don't want no Americans running up there.
No, man. I'm telling you, down here it's quiet. It's like a different world. I travel to the state a lot, but it's a different place. We had our situation with a white supremacist a while back where he entered a mosque and he killed several people.
Well, not only that, you also have the situation up there where they're making it so bad for Native Americans that suicide is going ballistic on the Native American territories, man.
Yep, it's high. It's high. It's really high over here. But I wanted to call you. You know, you seem to know. You're very familiar with the system. Have you thought about running for an office?
Hell no. Sorry, you didn't even finish the question before I asked. Brother, politician by definition in a dictionary means lying, conniving, and sniveling. Let me tell you this, bro, because you don't know. When I was doing shows with Mr. Nelson back during the Clinton years, I turned down the opportunity for a Fulbright scholarship and a White House fellowship because I was involved. My political teeth were cut during the Nixon years and the Watergate, okay? Because I was going to high school in Quantico, Virginia, and Martha Mitchell was ranting and raving, and I was taking it in like a human sponge. And I really believe they killed Martha Mitchell. 20 years later, I was a member of many of the globalist organizations that are now running this country as well as running and basically putting in policy around the world. Under the Clinton years, when I saw that it wasn't a Democratic-Republican thing, but they were all corrupt, I basically dropped out of all globalist organizations. They were grooming me for bigger and better things. Donald Trump's wife, well, former wife, Ivana Trump, was my sponsor to International Who's Who. They were grooming me for bigger and better things. If I had sold my soul, I'd be one of those generals right now or somebody on Capitol Hill. I would have been Obama. I'm not making this stuff up. Sure. But I wouldn't sell my soul. I was brought up in a Judeo-Christian background. I wouldn't sell my soul, and I got out of it. So when you say I noticed, brother, I was part of the system. They were creating me to be one of these black leaders, and I refuse to sell my soul. So when I come on this show and share with the folks, I know this because they taught me. Yeah, I'm
We're
sorry.
going to take another break. Stay with us, Sadhu. 800-450-7876 gets you on. We take your calls next. This big show rolls on from FM 95.9 and AM 4 to stay with us, folks. Our guest, Mark from Anaheim. Before we go back to him, in the next few days, you're going to hear from Dr. Malefi Asante, the man who created, or the father of Afrocentricity. Also, it was one of our power talkers, by the way. Also, Dr. Maulana Karenga, one who created Kwanzaa, is going to be here. And another one of our power talkers, Dr. Ray Wimbush from Morgan State University. So tell your friends to keep it locked on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL. Let me see. Mark, did you finish with Sadhu? Or Brother Sadhu, did you finish with Mark?
Yeah, I just have one last question.
Yes, sir.
If a civil war starts,
Yes, sir.
what will you 10-point things for black people? The 1 through 5. What's the first thing you could do? Second, third, fourth, and fifth to survive the Civil War? And I take my answer off the phone.
Yes, sir. All right, Civil War. 1. Forget that I even mentioned the Civil War. We all live in an area that encounters natural disasters. So 1, have the supplies, have the necessities, have the necessary equipment, food, water, etc., to survive at least for 7 days minimum if there was an earthquake, a flood, a hurricane, or a tornado. Because those same things you're going to need if we ended up taking it to the streets full time. You're not going to have 911. You folks can't even handle being off Facebook for 2 days, okay? What you going to do when the electricity is not working? Or the police are too busy handling something else, they can't come to your neighborhood. Number 2, I'm a big proponent of firearms. If you can legally own a firearm, you should have a firearm. I'm just telling you, straight out. You guys can talk all the other crap. And for you folks who can't legally own a firearm, they always have this saying, better be judged by 12 than to carry by 6. So I'm not going to tell you to go out there and break the law. I'm just saying you got to do what you got to do. Number 3, you need to start understanding who's important in your life. You can choose your friends. You can't choose your family. And for those out there who have so much damage done within your family that it's irreparable, I'll pray for you. I can't help you. 4, since I mentioned prayer, God, Allah, Yahweh, whoever you believe in, there's a higher spirit out there. For you atheists, I can't help you. Okay? I'm sorry, I can't help you. But this is time for you to get back closer to your God and religion. And 5th, have a location that everyone in your family knows to meet if in the event something goes down, whether it's a natural disaster or man-made. If in the event you're at work, they're in school, some people are at home, that you all know where to meet, where you're supposed to go to let everybody know you're okay. And let me just tell you a little secret here about this, because, I'm on a landline. I know my time's running out because AT&T is trying to get rid of all landlines. Cell phones, iPads, smartphones, all that crap, they don't work in natural disasters. However, remember this. Trying to make a phone call on a cell phone, smartphone, etc. may not work, but text messages do not work on the same system. So, like, for example, when they had Superstorm Sandy, everybody was busy trying to make phone calls and couldn't get through, not knowing had they used their text messages, they could still communicate with your relatives. So I hope those top 5 help you.
All right. We're going to keep rolling. 800-450-7876. Mill's on line 3. Mill's calling from the district. Mill, you're on with Mark from Anaheim.
Thanks. How you doing, Mark? How you doing, Carl?
Happy to be here, sir.
Great. Should there be a thermonuclear exchange, the prevailing winds go to Japan.
Yes,
that
sir.
means the Japanese economy will be gone, and sooner or later it's going to get to China. It's going to collapse both economies, which is going to collapse the global economy. And it's not that you can just spray some water on the Toyota truck because it's radiation. Mark already knows this. It's a teratogen. It will remain contaminated for 12 to 2,500 years, depending on if they use plutonium or cesium, and it goes on and on. They'll collapse the global economy.
Yes, sir.
That's all I had to say.
So the brother brings this up, and I meant to talk about this earlier. I'm not worried about a thermonuclear war because Fukushima is going on right now. Nobody's talking about it. Now, Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton, who's supposed to be so pro-environmental, they did everything to squelch all the information coming out of Japan regarding how toxic Fukushima is. You got white folks, young children, old folks in places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, who died within the first 2 years of Fukushima because it was not just in the water, it's in the air. And those folks who have immune systems that are not well developed or are threatened because of their age or their youth, people ain't talking about it. Children who end up getting nuclear biological chemicals in their damn milk out of Wisconsin, Cheesehead State. Now you got this like a 5 square mile grid of Fukushima toxic dump waste that's headed towards Hawaii. Nobody's talking about it. So yeah, brother, I appreciate what you're saying about the thermonuclear war. But you got nuclear fallout from Fukushima that's going on every day in the water and in the air. Japan's already exposed to their own damn radiation. And by the way, since I'm into surfing, 2020 is the first year that we're going to have surfing in the Olympics. Now, the Olympics are supposed to be in Tokyo, Japan. So I'm already telling folks, if they're going to have Olympics surfing in Japan, then they better build a Kelly Slater wave machine inside of a building structure because, one, the waves suck in Tokyo in the summertime, and two, they're going to be exposed to radiation because nobody's talking about it. Let's move on, sir.
All right, 800-450-7876. Marilyn also in the district on line 4. Marilyn, you're with Mark from Anaheim. We lost Marilyn? Okay.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. The clones that Dick Gregory speak of, i.e. Donald Trump, red tie versus blue tie, are those real? That's question one.
Yes, sister. Okay. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and there's only one store in the whole United States that shares the ties that come straight over here from across the pond, as we say, across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean. It's called Ben Silver Company, and in Ben Silver, they don't do it anymore, maybe because I told so many people about it, but they used to have a catalog, and when you looked at the tie, you knew exactly what the membership of that person was, what organization they represented, and you knew what the tie signified. So, yeah, there's a big significance between red and blue ties.
Well, they were saying that the clones that are being manufactured, like under these secret tunnels under the earth, and they're swapping real humans for these clones. Some of them are killed, some of them are being kept underground. Is that true?
I don't know anything about that, but what I will say to you is this. We have had so much advancement under DARPA. DARPA is Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. Back in the 90s, there were already hundreds of thousands of robot cops that were being made in factories down in South and Central America, but the United States government was going to go for it. Now they're all obsolete because the technology is so far more advanced. But in Tokyo, Japan, going back to Tokyo, for more than 10 years now, you've had a captain from the police department that greets you at the airport, and that captain's not a human being. The Japanese, the Asians are really far advanced when it comes to cybergenetics. I'm no longer part of the government. I don't have access to information like that. So what I'm just saying is speculation. But from everything I'm reading out of Scientific American and other magazines similar to that, it would not surprise me in the least that we have the capability of putting somebody out there who looks 100% as a human being, but is actually a cyborg, as they call it, cybergenetic. But I don't have that knowledge or information.
I was at Disney World about 20 years ago, and Ellen DeGeneres was not Ellen DeGeneres. It looked just like her. It was a robot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure it was.
And there's no doubt in my mind, over in Japan especially. Now, there was a television show that came out on Fox Network like 3 years ago, basically where you wanted the perfect wife. You know, she never complains. She's never on her period. She does what you want. It was called Dollhouse. But it was the woman who's not a woman. She's 100% cybergenetic, but she had the woman's skin. You know, like the Terminator technology. And it would not surprise me in the least that right now in Japan, you got guys who are dating, if not married to, the perfect wife. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not.
They're saying that they have the prostitutes like that now. They're actual brothels with these robots.
Hell yeah. Yeah. But, you know, sister, I'll just say this because the sister brings up a good point. Who's to say once you develop this technology that technology now does not look like somebody who we think we can trust in office, and that technology has no desire to keep human beings around, and that technology is pretending to be the human we think we voted into office. And you see some of this illusion in the Marvel Comics movie series, the X-Men, where they assume the appearance of human beings, but they're not. Man is playing God, and I think we've gotten far beyond our ability to control what we're creating.
Man, I'm going to let you go because we are racing the clock right now. I thank you for your call. Quickly, Mark, Paul, who calls us from London, says he's been trying to get through, but they're blocking him from getting through.
No kidding. And I'm going to tell you, Mr. Nelson, not only that, ever since I did that show with you, I was supposed to be at the Vans U.S. Open of Surfing last week, and I took off on Thursday to come do that show with you. I can't do a damn thing on Facebook, so I hope you're happy. And after this show today, I'm sure it's going to be worse. My internet screwed up, my computer screwed up, my Facebook screwed up. So thank you very much. But before I go, because I know we're running out of time, for folks who want to try to find me when I can finally once again get into my Facebook messages, you can find me at Mark from Anaheim, Political Sarcasm 101, and that's on Facebook, the fan page. I mean, I got rid of the group site a long time ago, but I'll just say this, Mr. Nelson. A lot of your listeners have taken the time to reach out to me since they heard me on your show back on, I guess it was August 3rd. And I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond, but like I said, every time I do a radio show with Mr. Nelson, everybody knows now, who knows me, my computer crashes, my internet goes whack, and my Facebook is just totally screwed up. But I think we might.
All right, let's see.
We might have one time.
Let's see if we can get one more call.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to Atlanta. Wes is reaching out to us. It's on line one. Wes.
Boulay
Make
Town.
it quick for us.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mark and Carl, man, I got all kind of patents, man. Remember that thing? What happened? Last week, Saturday, that was all staged, man. They busting old people in called Crowd Solution Crisis Actors, man. Look up Crowd Solution, all right? That was staged. And Carl, you posted that thing about that subliminal weapon they hit Poker Cuba with. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I got the patent number for that, man. I got the patent number for that, Carl. And that patent number is 6091473. I got the patent number. I cover this fine to give you some more patent. I got patent numbers to make you crap your pants, Carl. They got patent to make folks do all kinds of stuff, man. Okay? And TV under 8, the police are under a plan called Tetra. You familiar with that, Mark?
Yes.
TETRA. That's what all the police in America is going to be hooked up in by 2018. That's why the police acted crazy, y'all. They under this plan called...
All right, Wes, because we're running out of time. Mark, can you explain that for us in 30 seconds, what Wes is talking about?
Okay, I came on Mr. Nelson's show starting in the early 1990s after the civil unrest here in L.A. because I saw a deliberate plan to federalize local law enforcement. First, you have to federalize local law enforcement, and then they'll be taken over globally. I'm not making this stuff up. And I'm a member of International Police Association, okay? There's a global organization that's going to run all police departments, but they have to do everything step by step. So when Bill Clinton came out with his 1994 Omnibus Crime Bill, and I know we're running out of time, folks, just come to my site on Facebook, and if you have questions, I'll answer for you, because we're out of time.
Right, we're flat out of time.
And I was never here.